Over a decade after its initial launch, the Kane and Lynch series has a somewhat contaminated legacy. PR disasters involving a mainstream gaming website and the fallout from a middling score, repulsive marketing surrounding its sequel, and more F-bombs between the two games than a DMX song. But it's easy to notice how little of this notoriety comes from the games themselves, and with Dead Men, it becomes clear why very quickly. Poor shooting mechanics, baffling design decisions, and a dated presentation ensure Kane and Lynch's debut crime thriller was, for lack of a better term, dead on arrival. Dead Men follows the two titular characters, death row convicts who are busted out during transport. It's soon revealed, though, that it was the work of Kane's former gang, the Seven, demanding that he return stolen money within 3 days, lest his kidnapped wife and daughter are killed. What follows is a dark crime drama, borrowing copiously from the likes of Heat, including a few sequences which feel like they were lifted straight from Man's movie. While some moments stand out, the narrative is buried under dislikable characters, with the protagonist duo lacking any semblance of empathy and nuance. The script uses F-words like a crutch, growing grating rather than adding intensity to the action. And with 2 weak endings available, it concludes with the equivalent of a flat tire.
Name's Lynch.
And what's the phone for?
I'll be reporting back to them every morning and night.
Great. Fucking watchdog.
If I don't call them back with good news, they'll start with your wife.
Not as long as you do exactly as I say. Let's see what they left us in the car.
Things don't get much better once you start shooting. It's immediately clear something isn't quite right, with bullet trajectory feeling off, leading to shots missing when they shouldn't have. Recoil on a lot of weapons is realistic in the wrong way, making keeping a steady aim tricky. Few of the guns in Dead Men have impact and seldom feel valuable in combat. Things get more awkward with the cover mechanics. Rather than pressing a button to stick to a surface, you'll almost automatically stick to cover, but it requires such finicky placement that it ends up proving a waste of time. AI on both counts is poor too, with friendlies often being gunned down quickly and enemies standing out in the middle of the open, though their gunshots can put you down sharpish. There is a revive mechanic, where friendlies can jab you with adrenaline to get back up, but dying in quick succession will lead to your character overdosing. There's also a bevy of odd design decisions, such as the lack of a reload button and thin squad mechanics, and it's a poor effort all around. The campaign is a real melange of scenarios, which are mixed in quality. There are a few highlights, including a couple of heists which feel energetic, and a technically impressive nightclub sequence, which puts tons of NPCs on screen at once. On the other hand, the later levels through war-torn Havana and dark Venezuelan jungles feel almost out of place, and often frustrating due to the sheer number of enemies on screen and cheap deaths. The gameplay doesn't hold its end of the bargain though, even in these more creative sequences, and ensure that it's not worth trudging through the muck to find the gold of Dead Men. The campaign can be breezed through in around 7 hours, and replays are hardly an appetizing prospect. There is a co-op mode, allowing you to play through the whole campaign with another player as Lynch, but bafflingly, it's limited to split screen and lacks online functionality. Games released months before achieved this feat, including Rainbow Six Vegas, leaving it a head-scratcher.
We could have gone to the hotel first. 12 hours on a fucking plane, my neck is killing me.
Stop bitching. We still got a long night ahead of us.
Bitching? I'm not bitching. I just hate being ignored.
Kane and Lynch fails to impress on a technical level, looking closer to a PS2 game than a 7th gen title. While some levels look appealing, especially the aforementioned nightclub level, much of the game suffers from poor textures and flat lighting. Even main characters, such as Kane's balding hair, look pretty poor. The performance is mostly steady, bar some slowdown during chaotic sequences, but it just looks ugly at most points, especially next to first-party titles like Gears of War. The sound fares only a touch better, thanks mostly to Jesper Kid's great soundtrack, which utilises a variety of accompaniments, from intense synthesizer tracks to the industrial techno which plays during the Tokyo nightclub. The voice work is decent, though the script fails to impress, and guns sound somewhat potent, but poor audio mixing often muddles these elements. The multiplayer is somewhat interesting, though suffers from the mechanical flaws of the campaign. Titled Fragile Alliance, all players start as robbers attempting to land a big score, with AI cops attempting to shoot you down. The neat wrinkle is that before reaching the getaway vehicle, teammates can turn on each other and snag all the loot for themselves. Otherwise, it is divided between surviving players. Any killed teammates also come back as cops, allowing you to exact your revenge. It's a neat idea, but the combination of poor shooting mechanics and a complete absence of players leaves it on life support.
You wouldn't.
That's enough.
Whoa, she's all limp. I didn't even hit her that hard.
It just makes our job easier.
Kane and Lynch Dead Men is a rare misfire from the usually reliable IO Interactive, an ugly shooter with repulsive characters, wonky mechanics, and some odd quirks which leave it feeling more frustrating than engaging. While some of the Heat-esque set pieces are fun, they aren't enough to warrant a playthrough, and Dead Men would be quickly outclassed by its competitors. Even for those morbidly interested in the missteps of this controversial game, it's just not worth the aggravation of dealing with the poor shooting. Much like the two deadbeats the game follows, there are a few redeeming qualities here.
Mr. Kane, wake up. Mr. Kane. What? I need you to cover your head.
What did you say?
Just cover your head now!